I hope you're hungry because you're listening to Everybody Eats.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Everybody Eats podcast. It's your host, Bensky Belazaire. We have our co-host, Eden McPhee, on the line, and we have a very special guest with us here today, Miss Rashauna Scott. Thank you very much for joining us today. It means a lot. So before we get into that, make sure you're following us on all platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there. Make sure you tune in. I hope you guys are staying safe, staying healthy, as everyone's like starting to reopen and all that stuff with Corona. So stay safe, stay healthy, and do your thing. So let's get it rolling. So Miss Rashauna, thank you very much for joining us again today. So I think the first time I heard about you was definitely through Earn Your Leisure. As I kind of mentioned off camera, I had the chance to meet with you at the Earn Your Leisure event back in December at the Top Golf in DC. And honestly, I love your story. I love your work that you do. So, reached out and thank you for coming. So appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thanks for reaching out. And I'm excited that we got a chance to connect. That was a really great event, pre-COVID, right? Mm-hmm. Back when life was normal. Right. We was, traveling and hopping on planes and stuff.
Exactly.
That was a great event. And, thanks for having me on the show.
Sure, for sure. So, if you could just briefly introduce yourself, your background, where you from, what do you do, how do you get into real estate, and all that good stuff, and we'll start from there.
Yep. So I am born and raised on the south side of Chicago, and how did I get into real estate? So, like a lot of people, I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that was me saying like, okay, I knew I wanted to be successful, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what that was gonna look like. But when I read the book, I was like, oh, okay, so real estate is gonna be the way. It just clicked, just made sense, like it does for so many people. And that book was actually given to me my very first job. I used to work at a health food store, and there was a guy who was a regular. It was like a small mom and pop store, and there was a guy who was a regular. And he would often come in and we would talk about like the properties that he owned and his tenants and all this and that. And then he was like, I'm gonna bring you a book one day. And I was like, okay, cool. And come to find out it was Rich Dad Poor Dad. And it's also the book that he gives his tenants the book too. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then fast forward from there, I got my license. And early on, I think I was like 20 or 21 or something, or 19. I got my license early on, and that was me getting my feet wet in real estate. But I was also working full-time, I'm in school full-time. I actually used to work for a property management company, too, while I was in school and hustling and learning real estate on the side. So, and from there, the journey just continues from, getting in and out of real estate and purchasing a guru program, which a lot of folks talk about. Some say it's good, bad, whatever. I definitely have my take on it. But, I definitely have spent money in education. And then, fast forward to present day to where I do have some experience in investing, different areas of investing, and then I am a full-time real estate agent here in, I'm licensed in the state of Illinois, but, the greater Chicago area.
Got it. So, I want to ask, would you say either like investing, real estate, was that something that you either grew up learning? Is that something that maybe you heard when you were growing up, or was that something not at all? And it's, like you said, it's just something you just came about when that man gave you that book, or like was it familiar or no?
Yeah, so not at all. Right? Like a lot of folks, that was not the topic of discussion in my household at all, and I quickly realized that that was a problem. It wasn't really until I was probably mid, like high school year, to my early 20s, 17, 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there, where I'm like, this is a problem. Why don't we know more about credit and finances and budgeting, and the conversations just were not being had. Definitely within my household or within my community or even within my sphere of influence, right, amongst my peers. And I actually had a mentor at the time who was a friend of mine, her dad. So she and we went to high school together, and I found out that her dad did real estate. And I remember calling him one day, and I don't remember if I had read the book first or what it was. I think I had probably read the book first because I think that's kind of where I got my interest. And when I found out he, had some experience in real estate, I was like, hey, I want to learn. And he was like, are you sure? Are you for real? I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, so meet me at the library, and then we'll sit down and we'll go over, everything. And so I showed up. I was hungry. I was thirsty to learn.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I didn't know. So we sat down and he broke down a lot. He definitely laid the foundation, helped lay the foundation for me just getting started in real estate and knowing, a lot of what I know now. But the other thing too, and I talk about this, I tell people like it's great to have a mentor, but it's even greater to have many mentors, right? Because you want to have mentors in different areas and different aspects of your life. And so this particular mentor, like I said, was great for just laying the foundation. But as far as once the foundation was laid, it was like, okay, what's next? Where do I go? Where do I go from here? And it's because he had a lot of success in the industry back in the day, pre-crash. But after the crash, it was a different world. It was a different rules,
Yeah.
So that was kind of the what the beginning looked like.
Got it. So you mentioned something interesting. You said not just finding one mentor, but having finding mentors, like multiple. So I feel like I've heard that multiple times, and I've heard a lot of people ask like, oh, how do I find a mentor? So how would you advise someone, like, how do you go about finding one or multiple mentors?
So the thing is that you really don't find the mentor finds the mentee. And the mentee is found by doing the work and putting yourself out there. So, like, the guy that I went to, like, yes, I did go to him and I was like, hey, I want to learn. But I didn't necessarily say I want you to be my mentor. But also the very first thing that he asked from me was for me to put some skin in the game. I had to show up early, be on time, and really commit to the things that he was telling me to do and getting set up, getting my business going and stuff like that. Fast forward from those who may not have a lot of patience like that to sit down, because I think that's the thing, a lot of folks are looking for mentors and they want mentors and people who are very high performance and people who are already busy. And so oftentimes you run across people who are like, oh, I don't have the time. But here's the thing, they want to make sure that the mentee, that individual, is putting in the time, putting in the skin in the game. And so when you put yourself out there, you're showing up, you're asking questions, you're going to events, you're meeting people. Like, I remember one of my other mentors, I met him at an event, and I didn't go up to him and I said, can you be my mentor? I went up to him and I was like, and I just introduced myself and I told him who I was and what I was looking to do. And he said, meet me on Tuesday at 9 at, this address, at one of my properties. And I did. I showed up. And then from there, the relationship grew, And so I tell people all the time, 90% of success is showing up, And that is going to be the best advice, is putting your best foot forward, because the mentor is going to see that you are trying and see that you are doing the work. And then it's a natural connection that happens. And I want to define the difference between mentor, mentee, and coach, right? Because a coach you pay for. A coach, you have a real estate coach and you are taking classes, or you're, doing a project, or, whatever the case, where it is a strictly, business exchange, that relationship. So oftentimes too, a lot of people confuse a coach with a mentor, because if it's a stranger and you coming up to a stranger with 1,000 questions that you need answered right now about your project, that coach is more than likely going to give you an invoice. But a mentor is someone that it takes time, to build that relationship with over time. And more than likely, it's going to happen naturally and it happen organically, but it won't happen without you showing up first.
Got it. Yeah, I definitely agree. I would say a lot of people I considered mentors weren't anyone that I was like, hey, be my mentor. It was just someone like, I just asked them a bunch of questions eventually, and like I just learned a lot from them, and I was like, okay, yeah, I think I consider this person my mentor, mainly because like I learned a lot from them, or they're an expert and I can go to them. And it's funny, like sometimes I'll consider them like, oh yeah, you're my mentor, and they're like, oh, don't say it like that. And I'm like, no, for real, like I learned a lot from you, so like I consider you like my mentor. So I definitely agree.
Absolutely, yeah. And like you said, it's like whether they know it or not, whether they signed up for it or not, you know, it's something that happens organically.
Yeah, definitely.
It's gotta be something that's natural.
Yeah, I was gonna say questions, comments.
Oh no, just something like natural, not like, you know, forced. Like she said, you know, the mentor finds the mentee. Is that? I don't want to misquote you. Yeah, all right. So yeah, it's, you know, something that's natural. You don't force it. It's kind of like you don't force a friendship or anything. So
Definitely. So I wanna ask. So you hear a lot of stories. Like I'm not from Chicago, right? I hear a lot of stories from Southside Chicago, right? Like you hear like, you know, it's crazy out there. It's on the third. So I'm curious, is it quote unquote as bad as you hear on the news in terms of either, you know, properties or in terms of, you know, the type of people? So like I'm curious, like what I guess like what kind of properties and what kind of like neighborhood are you, you know, if you're still working in that area, like what kind of like, you know, environment are you working in?
Yeah, so I work all over the city. So, and Chicago is huge. So it's not just, you know, one side of town. We have really three main sides of town. We have the north side, we have the south side, and we have the west side, and then we have surrounding suburbs. So Chicago can be also, you know, the greater Chicagoland area, but it can definitely take you 45 minutes or even an hour or an hour and a half, depending on traffic, to get from one end of the city to the next. So there's definitely no way to say that Chicago, you know, you can pinpoint what is portrayed on the news to be all of Chicago. Absolutely not. It doesn't. It just doesn't even make sense realistically. And then, like you mentioned, from a property value, you know, standpoint, right? We have multi-million-dollar properties in certain neighborhoods in the city. We have high rises, you know, downtown. We have properties that are undervalued. We have properties that are in not so great areas where, you know, the price points might be better. So, and that's what I love about Chicago. It has a lot that we have a lot to offer, right? And the majority of people who come here, when they do come here for the first time, they're like, oh, it's nothing like they said it was going to be, you know? And I think as with any major city that you have, you're going to have just like, you're going to have a lot of segregation, right? You're going to have like this group of people on one side of town and this group of people on another. So you're going to have that in major cities, just due to the way things are just set up economically. Like, and that is, I mean, it's unfortunate, but that is the world that we live in. And so it's not just in Chicago. You know, if you go to New York, you go to LA, you go to Atlanta, you go to wherever, you know, you definitely have a lot of, you know, poverty areas, especially in big cities. You know, you have wealthy people, you have, you know, middle working class, and you have, you know.
Got everything, a little bit of everything, definitely. So, what would, I know like every city is a little bit different, so I guess we can we'll cover maybe a little bit more of this in the second segment, but I'm interested a little bit, I guess, in the type of properties, I guess, like you invested in that city. So I've been to Chicago a few times, but I stayed more, I had family more in like the outsides, I think like Oak Park. I think that's more like the suburban area. So I see
West suburb.
Yeah, okay. So I see on like Instagram you post a lot of like multi-unit properties, and it's funny because like out here in Norfolk, we don't have, I would say I've been here from what I've seen, it's mainly like either like single family homes or like maybe like 4 units, right? But like I feel like there's no like 2 units, there's nothing like in between, and there's not really like high, like sky rises. So I'm interested, like in Chicago, I guess, what would you say is the most popular or most common type of property out there, or, you know, something in that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, as far in the single family space, Chicago is known for the bungalow, the Chicago bungalow. That's one of our pretty much like historic landmark type properties in a single family space. In the multi-family space, like you said, we do have 2s, 3s, 4s, 6s, 12s, 18s, 24, 36. It was a city that was built for density, for a large population, and that of which we do. We have 3 million people, population, the third largest city in the country. So it is common, definitely, to see a lot of single family homes, a lot of 2 units and 3 units, and it depends on the areas too, because some are going to have more than others. There's some areas that are going to be all multis. There's some areas that are going to be all single family. That so there's actually a mix, and it's interesting actually the way it's set up. But yeah, so I can't say Chicago isn't known for just one, because even like say even go downtown, we have skyscrapers. But yeah. I do realize that in the Midwest we do have a lot. We do have more multi-units than a lot of my colleagues, like on the East Coast or on the West Coast. That's just not a thing that's common for you guys. But yeah, we have. That's why I said Chicago has a lot to offer. Depending on what you're looking for.
Definitely. Edom, any questions, comments?
No.
Definitely. Okay, so I guess to wrap this up, I would say, starting off in your real estate journey, right? So I would say, what were obviously, like, there's a lot of learning points, learning curves, right? So I would want to say, what would be some of the key points you learned early on, or some of the key, like, maybe it's like some big mistakes possibly that you made, or starting off, or something that, like, okay, like some
yeah, definitely trusting yourself more, so much more than you're doing right now, right? Because I was one of those folks where, and I still got a little bit in me, but starting out, I definitely believed in the power of like group economics, and not even group economics, but more so like partnership. And while partnerships are still good, I still do believe in them. But I also believe that a lot of things you can accomplish on your own. Should you just put in the work and believe in yourself. Believe that you can accomplish whatever. So if you want to buy a building, if you want to buy a home, if you want to buy an investment property, if you want to flip, if you want to do rentals, and that's the thing. A lot of first-time investors are waiting for the perfect time to get started and are looking to have all the answers. And realistically, you won't have all the answers. No one has all the answers. Even the experts still don't have all the answers, because things change, right? Like, even the experts, when the coronavirus hit, like, they never thought we would be in a pandemic. Nobody, did. So things change. But one of my lessons early on was believing in yourself and knowing that you already have everything that you need, to be successful in this industry, and you don't need anybody else. But that was a hard lesson for me to learn, because I just believe that, we all can work together, we all can, do business together and that sort of thing. And it has definitely taught me some lessons along the way. And I have friends who actually remind me, like, what are you doing? You can do this and you can do that. And so I definitely have learned my lessons with that along the way. But yeah, you won't have all the answers before you get started.
Definitely.
So would you say that's like synonymous with knowing when to take the training wheels off and kind of not looking behind you at your okay. All right.
Yep. Yeah, because the thing is, like, in real estate, once you have your professionals lined up, like, they're supposed to guide you along the way. That's why they are the professionals. You don't have to be a professional or an expert at what you're doing when you have a team. And that's why, you hear so many people talk about how important it is to have a solid team, and it is. And the best way, if you're just starting out, of course, you won't have a team. You won't know who to go to, so you get recommendations,
Okay. Definitely.
But yes, that is, you can take the training wheels off as soon as you have your team. And so, whether that is, like we talked about, a mentor or a coach, in real estate, a realtor, an attorney, an inspector, a contractor, things like that. And of course, for those types of, real estate is it's a big transaction. So you want referrals. You don't want somebody you just Googled and maybe, they had a couple reviews and, you want referrals when it comes to building your team. And so when you do eventually get those referrals, yeah, I think it's good to take the training wheels off.
Okay. Yeah, so I actually kind of want to say that for the last segment, I was going to ask, like, how do you find like that team, like with like contractors and like, lenders and all that good stuff. So I think we'll save that for the final segment. But on that note, thank you. We'll wrap up the first segment and then we'll head over to do our quote of the day. All right, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to segment 2 of the Everybody Eats podcast. We're about to do our quote of the day. We're here with Rashauna Scott. Just had a great conversation about her background, getting into real estate. So now we'll do the quote of the day. Edom, got that quote? What we got?
Okay, so the quote is, to be successful, you can't work for money.
I feel like I've heard that multiple times.
Yeah, probably said in different ways.
Dang. I feel like the last person I heard say that was, I saw like a Steve Harvey clip of him saying that, but is that where the quote is from?
No, I'm pulling it from someone I heard it from.
Okay, yeah. I feel like I've heard multiple people, but who's any tips or like to guess like who got the quote from?
This person's a philanthropist. I believe he's a CEO. And I feel like it was a big hit, but maybe I'm hoping y'all won't know it, but he's Diddy's mentor.
Dang.
Nah,
I don't know.
Okay. His name is Ray Dalio.
Okay.
I know the name. I definitely know the name.
Got it. Okay, to be successful.
So yeah, I was just watching something like a few weeks back, and it was an interview back in December of that Diddy did, I think, on his podcast with his mentor. So
got it.
That was one of the things he said.
To be successful, you don't work for money. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I've always I've been hearing a lot like don't chase money, don't work for money. It's always about like producing the value, right? If you produce value, if you're working for something that brings service to someone else or brings value to someone else, then the money will come. Then you could like charge a price. But if you're always like chasing that dollar, it's not really like you're gonna be chasing it forever, and it's not really going to be successful. So you always want to chase that value. So.
And I think it kind of just highlights that success is, it takes different forms, and let's say unfortunately you're not as lucrative as you want to be, but if you're not working for the money, then and in other aspects of whatever it is you're doing, you might be pretty successful. Take baking for example, or arts and crafts business. As long as you're doing what you want to do, you want to make people happy. As long as that's your main focus, it doesn't matter where the money is.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, providing and producing that value, but then also coming with, quality customer service, quality marketing, right? All of those things will help you, it'll help you grow your business. And it'll definitely benefit you because obviously the better service that you give, then the more referrals that you'll get, and the better service that you give, more than likely is going to be, it's going to come from you doing something that you love, something that you enjoy, something that you're passionate about. Because in business, every day is not going to be a great day,
yeah.
So you aren't going to feel like, being happy-go-lucky all the time. But because it's something that you enjoy doing, you're good at doing it, and you do it, without even thinking about it.
Definitely. I forgot where I heard it recently, but someone was talking about like your reputation, right? And I was like, your reputation speaks louder, than anything.
It precedes you.
Yeah, obviously, right? You hear that. So like when you mentioned like customer service, right? And it's like, I think it was like when we interviewed Tally and Twine, the watch company, and he was saying that like even when it comes to like the packaging, when it comes to like the small stuff, you want to make sure that you're doing it of high quality, because even if it's just like one sale, but like that person is going to speak to someone else, right? He's going to give that word of mouth. That's how the referrals come in mind, right? So it's like, doing it for the value and not doing it for the money. And another thing that just came to mind is I think it's Gary Vee who says this sometimes, like, hey, like if you're doing if it's like your business, hobby, or something like that, and you want to make sure you're doing it for the love of it, because like he was saying like if you were not to get paid for what you were doing, right, would you still put in the same amount of effort? And I think that sticks with me sometimes when you say like sometimes business isn't good, or sometimes you're not seeing the results that you want. But are you doing it for the likes, the followers, and the money, or are you doing it because like you truly love it and this is truly what you want to do, right? So when the numbers aren't hitting, right, and when you're maybe the deals aren't setting, or you're not getting those followers, do you still have that same passion? Do you still have that same love for it? So.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's real. Yeah, because you are not gonna feel like going to work every day.
Yeah.
And that's where and whether that's to work for somebody else or to work for yourself, it's just natural, human reaction. But like you said, that passion and that commitment, that drive and that discipline. Just being disciplined to okay. And speaking of quotes, right, there's another quote that I really like, and I don't know whose it is, but it says, you won't always be motivated, so you must learn to be disciplined.
That's true,
And that can go, across the board, right? Whether it's career-wise, whether it's diet, right? Whether it's diet, working out, budgeting, right? It's just, it all comes back to discipline.
Definitely. Yeah, I feel like I think like Eric Thomas. I think I've heard him say something like that too. Like pretty much like work even when you're not feeling motivated or something. It's pretty much something along that lines. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're not always gonna feel like let's go do this. But it's like once you have that consistency and that discipline, that you're gonna do it regardless. So
yeah, I feel that working out aspect of it. At last, like 3 times I went to go for my workouts, I just was not feeling it. Not only this, but it's that the discipline that comes in really, So
and like
I resonate with that.
One last thing that something I've been trying to tell myself lately, right, when it comes to like working out, right, either like working out, business, work, anything, right, I kind of think like, all right, am I going to regret doing it in the end? You know what I'm saying? Like after I finish working out, am I ever going to be like, oh, I regret working out? For the most part, no. You never really say like, yeah, you might be sore or whatever. But realistically, at the end of say like working out or do something for your business, once you complete it, you usually feel good, right? All that like negativity or I don't feel like doing it is always like the before. You know what I'm saying? So it's like once you like actually do it, I've never really looked back like, oh, I regret working out. I regret putting in that extra effort. Realistically, it never happens, right? So sometimes I try and tell myself like, think about the end. Like, am I really gonna regret putting in the extra effort? I know I won't. So like that kind of like helps me. That helps me a little bit. Like thinking about what the end result will be. So yeah. So any questions? Comments, pretty much. Wrap it up.
You regret being lazy more than you do doing it. So
that's a fact.
That's real.
That's a fact. You gotta write that down for a different quote. Definitely.
But to repeat it, the quote is: "To be successful, you can't work for money."
To be successful, you can't work for money. So on that note, we'll wrap up this segment, and then we'll head to our final segment, talking about flipping in heels and getting real estate deals. Oh, that's a bar. There we go. There we go. All right, welcome back, everyone. Segment 3 of Everybody Eats podcast. We're here with Rashauna Scott. Now we are talking about Flippin In Heels. So, if you could describe how did it start, what is it, what's the goal, and yeah, we'll start from there.
Yeah, so Flippin In Heels is to highlight, to educate and encourage and empower and motivate all of those powers. Women investing, women investors, women who want to get into investing. It is for her, right? It also was created because I didn't see a woman, like I said, when I invested into the Guru program, I didn't see another woman who I could look up to. We talked about like mentors and mentees in another segment. That episode, I never had a female. I never found her. I never came across her. And thank God for today, for social media. Now I'm able to, meet so many amazing women who are doing amazing things in real estate. To where I'm like, man, I wish I, had you 10 years ago. But to create that platform for women to, just connect with one another and learn with and grow with one another. But then also under Flippin In Heels, there's the community. So the community is called Infinity. And it's a women's membership group where we meet twice a month online, and the women are from all across the country, and we teach and we learn about all things real estate investing. And so, we have different experts who do sessions and all of that. But again, it's about that community, that support, that sisterhood, because like I was saying before, like you have everything in you to get started, but sometimes it does take having that support or somewhere where you can just get your questions answered, because that's the thing. We don't know what we don't know, so a lot of times we do nothing out of fear, right? And so because of that, fear will stop us from doing things. But if you have a community where you can get your questions answered, you have that support, it just encourages more people to do more, and especially women who are in a very male-dominated industry, right? The investing space is male-dominated. So yes, women can be landlords. Yes, they can flip houses. Yes, they can also be general contractors, and really pushing and highlighting and promoting that. So. Yep, that's what it's all about.
Definitely, that's amazing. So, is that something you started like solo, or is that something that like you found like a group and then you like built it up?
Oh no, it's all solo.
Okay.
All 100% solo. Yeah, it was all me. It was. I got the idea from a friend. Well, I got the name from a friend. We were talking about like doing a show or something at some point. And he was saying, and because I was always about like the women empowerment and all of that. And he was like, oh, well, we can call it this. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, that's catchy. The show never happened. Yeah. And then, but I had the desire to still do something for women and make it about women. And then I also wanted to have, like, connect with other women and have them even come on board with me. But that didn't work out. So, like I said, I just had to press forward and, lay the platform and create the foundation. But yeah, it is 100% by me. I built it, I own it. But yeah. And it's not just like I don't know where it's gonna grow, right? Yeah. Like this Flippin In Heels is gonna be, an investment group down the line for women and all of that. Because right now I don't have anything set up to collectively like invest or pool funds. That's really the legal side of things. I don't have anything set up like that to invest through Flippin In Heels. It's more so like the brand, the digital face of, like I said, that community and that support and everything. But am I open to, whatever down the line? Absolutely, because again, as long as we're fulfilling the mission, and the mission is the same, again, to educate and, empower and motivate and support women who are in this industry who are feeling alone, because I know what it feels like.
Definitely. Yeah, no, that's definitely encouraging. Just seeing that, especially you said he started and built that solo. So I think that's amazing, and I hope it just continues to grow, right? Because I know it's very, very profitable, and kind of like you said, like there's a lot to learn about it, right? I really recently started getting more into it, and I'm like, wow, like there's so much to learn, right? And I can imagine, like, if you don't have someone to go to, it can be probably like frustrating if you don't have someone, like, you know, to go and like have questions and do all that. So definitely admire that. So now I kind of want to get into more of like the real estate like deals and the type of like, I guess, like deals and things that you do. So you said you're a full-time real estate agent. So are you, and then you're an investor as well. So are you doing more like buy and holds? Are you doing like wholesaling? Or are you doing like flipping? So is that like just flipping, or like mainly flipping, or is it like a mix of everything?
So it's mainly flipping. I've done some wholesale, but I didn't like actively market for the buyer, and you know that whole thing of like the typical, wholesale transaction. It was pretty much like those deals came to me, and by me having my investment knowledge, I just knew what to do. So from there, I knew how to like lock up the deal, talk to the seller, get it under contract. And then I actually JV, joint ventured with someone who does wholesale 24/7, and we, got the deals done and got paid. And so from there, it was funny is like because I have a lot of friends who are in the wholesale space, and I was like, maybe I should focus more on this wholesale thing. And that might still be in the future, but yes, as far as my experience, it has been in tax lien investing. I used to run a fund for investing in tax liens, and so I do have experience with that. And then also on the flipping side of flipping properties and working with contractors and working with investors and that sort of thing. So I have that. So that's for me and for a lot of people that I know, that is usually like the first phase of investing. Some people, it depends on how you start out. So for me, I want to flip it and be like my first phase of investing, and then transition into buy and hold. And so actually that's where I am right now. That's my route. So I'm actually finishing up the properties that the last couple ones I did with a partner. And we actually had a closing today, and we got a couple more to close out. And then, I'll be making that transition. So that's been my experience on the investing side.
Got it. So, in regards to flipping, could you, I guess, like, briefly explain like what it is, or like your process, or like like for either those who don't know, like what it is, what's the process of buying and flipping, and like what goes into that?
I have a I guess like an add-on question. So in my house, personally, my mom loves watching HGTV, and they do a show called Flip This House. Is it anything like similar to that?
No, it's a lot more stress.
I know, because I mean, HGTV paints it out to be like,
yeah, their stress is like TV stress. Yeah. It's definitely not black and white. It's real stress involved. When you think you have a small leak and it, goes turns into a $4,000 leak, and then things that just was not in the budget. So no, it's real life stress. But the first question as far as what is flipping, so essentially buying property below market value, and then putting money into it to fix it up, and then sell at a higher price. So, the profit is the difference in, what you make in the middle, but between your purchase price and then your all-in rehab costs, and then on the other side, what you're going to sell it for, even minus your fees. Because that's the other thing, since you mentioned, HGTV, that's one other thing that a lot of those shows weren't mentioning. I think they're kind of doing a better job at now. But, they'll say like purchase price, they'll say like sell price minus purchase and rehab. And that's not realistic, because there's other fees associated. There's closing costs, there's realtor fees, title fees, lender fees, so minus whatever fees, then that's where you have your net proceeds, or your net profit. And so, that's essentially flipping. So like I said, buying property that's below market value, that needs work, putting money into it, turn around and reselling it. So that is that. And then the number one thing to have, well, I would say two things, having your finances in order, one, and two, is having a great contractor. That is going to be the number one thing in real estate in general, any type of renovation. Unless you plan on buying property that's already fixed up. But, even if you plan on buying property and fixing it up and just holding it and renting it out, you still want to have, a solid contractor on your team. So that is what flipping is. But, having your finances in order. So whether you are using hard money lender, having your lender lined up, or using like private lenders, sometimes they're private investors who will lend you money, to do deals. So whether it's that or like hard money, having all of that lined up, and then like having the contractors in place, and I talked about it before, referrals and recommendations. But having all of that lined up is definitely going to be key. Knowing your timelines, knowing your exit strategy. How long is this going to take to rehab this? How long do we plan on selling it? Okay, if it's going to take us 3 months, is that going to put us in dead of winter? What's the market like? And then what's your market, right? Knowing your market is going to be huge, because you're going to know, okay, properties usually in this area stay on the market in less than 30 days, right? So there's certain things that you need to know, or are single family homes even selling right now? Or is everybody buying multi-units, right? So knowing what that looks like, and then also the inventory, the amount of inventory that's currently on the market that matches your property. The property that you're considering, the potential property, is there too much competition out there? So there's a lot. There's a lot, and that's not even scratching the surface. But I mean, that's there's, of course, so much information out there, right? Podcast, books, YouTube. But that is, I would say, just kind of the basics. And then also, to your numbers, right? You can't forget the numbers, because the money, that's where the money is made, knowing what the numbers are. Having a good purchase price, a solid purchase price, a solid entry point. Having your rehab number solid, and then also having a contingency in your budget, or if you go over, that amount, and then still making sure that there's room in there minus the fees to make a profit.
Got it. Yes, that's a lot. So in terms of that contractor, I'm curious, right? So I haven't yet had to ever deal with one, right? But I've heard people, even like at work, I've heard people say like, oh, this contractor's taking like 3 months to get this done. It should have only taken like, a month or two, right? So like I've just heard stories of people either like complaining or just like, about contractors. So I'm curious, and I guess for our audience too, how do you go, besides, I know you said referrals, but like generally, like how do you go about finding a good contractor? But then even when you get one, there's also like making sure that they're on top of their work, right? Because you can find a contractor, but they take forever and take longer. So I guess like, are there any tips of dealing with contractors, finding contractors and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to stand on anybody's head, right? Nobody wants to micromanage. And so I would say, so first of all, like I said, the referrals and the recommendations are going to be huge. That is going to come through. You can even join like Facebook groups, right? You can join local Facebook groups or your local RIA, your Real Estate Investment Association. Or there's local meetups too that you can join that will give you resources. And so the referrals and recommendations that come through there are going to be solid, especially within a Facebook group. Whatever your city is, I guarantee if you Google that in the word, not Google, but if you search it on Facebook, like Chicago real estate, there's like 100 groups that come up, So join in those groups, and then letting people know you need referrals, recommendations. Of course, family and friends have worked, with people too, so you can get those recommendations from them as well. And then once you are referring those individuals, you want to ask them certain things like, how many crews do you have? How many people do you have working for you? How many jobs do you take on at a time? How many jobs do you have right now? you want to go and visit any current jobs that they have, so you can see their work currently. Because anybody can show you a picture and say this is my work. So being able to go and visit a job site that they're currently working on, so you can see the quality of their work, the workmanship. And then also from the contract terms, you want to, of course, talk about payment, right? When and how. I would almost never give a deposit up front unless it was for materials. And for materials, you can actually pay for those, directly to the source. So let's say it's like a Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards or something like that. You can buy the materials directly at the store, and then you can pay the contractor, their labor quote or their cost later. But oftentimes we hear, oh, I gave the contractor X amount of money, a deposit or whatever, and they ran off with the money. When you think about it, like when you start a new job, at a 9 to 5, most times it's usually 3 weeks until you get your first paycheck.
That's a fact.
know. So if you don't get paid up front and then you start to work, it's the other way around. So a lot of times in the construction industry, people will try that, right? And then also too, figuring out, as I mentioned already, are they charging you a labor quote and a material quote? Because and I say that because it's actually will be better for you to do like labor only, because we talk about the horror stories, right? There's so many stories to where contractors will slip in the material costs. Exactly.
Yep. I have the same thing going on when my house is getting redone. So, I know exactly.
Yep. So asking them, is this, give me your labor only price. I'll pay for materials. And then that way, the materials that you pay for are going strictly for your job, So I would say those are some initial, good questions to ask when interviewing, like I said, asking them for more referrals. Yes, that one person recommended or referred them, but ask for 3 more. Ask for 3 more referrals and call them. And talk to them and ask, what was your experience working with this person and that type of thing. So, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I found that really helpful.
A lot of gems.
Yeah, I'm about to say that's a lot of gems right there.
For real, that's a lot of gems.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of my parents were just recently telling me about like work they were doing on the house, and like having to find quotes, running here and there, and like one thing they were mentioning, sometimes the property manager was offering them like a certain contractor or a certain worker to do work on the house, but the price that the property manager was charging, or like, the contractor through the property manager was charging, was like $1,000 higher or a couple $100 higher than like a different contractor that they found. And they're like, okay, it's likely the property manager is just trying to like take some off the top, for that referral and things like that. So I think that helps a lot, and that's kind of the stuff that you don't always hear. Kind of like when you see HGTV and they tell you buy, fix, flip, right? There's a lot all that underneath and like in between stuff that they don't really mention that like people have to go through. So I think that's really helpful for me and anybody else who's like looking to fix and flip over there. So anywhere you're at, I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, those fees are real. They add up.
Definitely. But on that note, our time is about to run out. Edom, do you have any questions, comments you want to end it off with?
Nah, I got it all out. Like, I really appreciate everything you said. Honestly, I'm going to keep that with me forever.
Definitely.
You're welcome.
Definitely. So, if you could, like your social media, how can people find you, learn more about Flippin In Heels, where can they find you, and things like that?
Yeah, so I'm at Rashauna Scott everywhere. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and then also on Instagram, Flippin In Heels. And all my links are in the bio. A friend of mine has a house hacking course. I know we didn't really talk about house hacking, but I do talk a lot about that to first-time home buyers. Basically, when you want to buy your first property, and instead of buying like a single family or a condo or a townhome, if you want to buy multi-unit, how that better set up for future, purchases. So there's a house hacking course 101 at the link in my bio. And then also to join Infinity, the women's membership group that I talked about that's kind of under, the Flippin In Heels family. That link is in the bio. But yeah, I'm like I said, I'm Rashauna Scott everywhere. If you Google me or like to look me up on social media, you can definitely find me.
Definitely. And on that note, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. I learned a lot, audience. Make sure that you're following. All that good stuff, right? So, everyone listening, I hope you guys are staying safe. If you guys are reopening, your state's assigned to reopen. Make sure you're still staying safe, doing what you gotta do. Don't want to catch the rona. So, see you guys. See you guys next week.